today. Can Mateus Nicolau show that he is a new force and contender in the flyweight division? Also, what about Karine Silva? Will she go out there and show that she is a contender in her weight class and make short work of Ariane Lipski? Also, what about Ryan Spann? Is he finally going to get his career back on track, or has that train derailed a long time ago? All of this and more on today's episode of Matter of Fact MMA. What's up? What's happening? Let's go. What's up, guys? We right back at it, right back with it. It's your boy Matt. We back with another week of breakdowns, another week of fights. So, going down this week is UFC Vegas 91. And I will say, the card is a little skimpy. You know what I'm saying? This card, there's not a lot of meat on the bones. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, it's slim pickings on your plate around this house when you're talking about Vegas 91. You know what I'm saying? But we're going to go over a few fights. We're going to talk about a couple of things going on that card. I'm definitely not going over the entire card, but there are a few fights that I wouldn't mind seeing. So we're going to take a look at that. So let's start out with the main event where Mateus Nicolau steps in the octagon with Alex Perez at 125 pounds. Man, not to disparage Alex Perez, he is a good fighter. I believe he's pretty inconsistent, and so far or inconsistent, but so far what we've seen from Nicolau is a lot more consistency. If anything, he's been pretty consistent. I would actually say he's the more skilled fighter of the two, better stand up, more comparable, I believe, on the ground overall. And I'm going to go along with Nicolau to go out there and get the win. He's already ranked number 5 at flyweight. So I'm going to go along with him to go out there and get the win and emerge as a contender for the flyweight championship. Of course, we got to see what happens with Pantoja and Urseg, but this will definitely throw homie up in the mix. So I'm going along with Mateus to get the win in the main event, UFC Vegas 91. I think it'll be a fairly exciting fight, but there's a good chance it will end quickly and end early. And that's just what it is. So I'm going along with Mateus Nicolau to get the win. We'll see how it goes down, but that's who I got. Let's go to the co-main event where Ryan Spann is going to step into the octagon with Bogdan Guskov. I'm going along with Ryan Spann. Now, Ryan Spann has been everything centered around the word inconsistent. So there's nothing consistent about him. I think he is a talented fighter. I think he is a skilled fighter. But I mean, at the end of the day, man, when it comes time to win the big one, he never wins the big one. And so that's just kind of been the story of his career. With that being said, he's had a much better strength of schedule, much tougher opponents. And I'm going to go along with him to go out there and get the win. I think at the end of the day, his experience is what's going to kick in, and, his abilities, so on and so forth, and he's going to go out there and get the win. I mean, in this, I don't feel like we know enough about Bogdan to be able to say if he's going to be able to go out there and put away Ryan Spann. A lot of the guys that Ryan Spann has lost to have either been good or pretty good. You know what I'm talking about? They ain't been the best, but I mean, it's just been a better strength of schedule. So I'm going along with Ryan Spann to go out there and get the win. Let's move on. Next, we have Ariane Lipski stepping in there with Karine Silva. On this one, shout out to Ariane Lipski because she's on a nice little win streak. She's put together some really good fights. You know what I mean? Fair, decent, I guess semi-decent names in the women that she has put away. But I mean, she's definitely set up a little run for herself. I feel that in a lot of her fights, she's winning, but a lot of the time I feel like she's barely winning. You know what I mean? Like, as I'm looking back, I mean, she definitely did do her thing against Casey O'Neill. Um, there was Aldridge, there was Gato. I mean, she definitely she's been doing her thing, but I wouldn't say she's been convincingly going out there and finishing a lot of these women, whereas Silva has. And I feel like Silva's also on a roll in the division, and I would definitely consider her a contender. Although in a lot of the women's divisions, it's not hard to be considered a contender. But I feel like that she's beaten her opponents or finished them more impressively than what Lipsky has, and I'm going to go along with her to go out there and get the win. Um, I think that Ariani is definitely a skilled fighter. She's definitely a good fighter. She's not scared to roll for a knee bar. She's not scared to snatch a leg. You know what I'm talking about? I mean, she's definitely comparable on the ground, and she doesn't have the most fluent stand up, but at the same time, she does drill a lot of combinations, you can tell. Because usually, if she's throwing, she doesn't throw a ton of single shots. She's usually throwing combinations, but I just think that Silva's the better fighter. So I'm going along with Silva to go out there and get the win. Next, we have Austin Lane stepping in there with Hanada Dinez. I'm going along with Dinez to go out there and get the win. I think he's going to be able to go out there, and I feel like Lane is, you know, he's just one of those fighters. I'm not trying to disparage him, but he's not the best fighter, and he's one of the fighters that it doesn't really matter what he does. And what I mean is he can go out there and be leading the dance in the first round. You know what I'm saying? Leading the fight. But eventually, his fighter IQ is going to come into play. He's going to make some sort of mistake, and he's going to take an L. Now, he doesn't usually have long fights, and I know he had a fight in by eye poke and everything, but you know, even in that rematch, he didn't have it. You know what I'm saying? He got finished quickly in that. And I just feel like, he can look good in the stand up region for the first couple of minutes, but once the hands start to fly from his opponent and he has to make a decision on if he's going to continue to stand, I'm not even really sure if he has much of a ground game, but if he's going to go to the ground, if he's going to be able to back up, reset, come back in and throw shots, that's usually where you lose Austin Lane. You know what I'm talking about? That's usually where homie is out of his element. So with that being said, man, I think he's going to go out there and get faded. So I'm going along with Denise to go ahead and get the win. Next, we have Jonathan Pierce stepping in there with David Onama. I'm actually going to go along with David Onama to get the win. I think the power is going to be a little bit too much for Jonathan. I definitely, of course, if the fight could always go to the ground, it could go to the ground at the beginning of every round. And for 3 rounds, Jonathan Pierce could definitely do his thing, easily out wrestle David Onama, and cruise to a decision. However, I do think that Jonathan Pierce, with that, I do believe I'm not trying to go at him, but I think he could be slightly chinny, just maybe, just maybe. And it wouldn't even matter against a guy like David Onama who packs that type of a power or that type of punch. But I have a feeling that if David's been working on his takedown defense at all, if he can implement that and it stays standard, I think he can chin Pierce and put him down. So I'm going along with David Onama to get the win here. Next we have Tim Means versus Uros Medic. I'm going along with Medic to get the win. Shout out to the Dirty Bird Tim Means, but I just think it's a little late in his career, man, and it kind of is what it is. So I'm going along with Euros to go out there and get the win. Good Lord. We got Ronnie Yaya stepping in there with Victor Henry. UFC, just, I mean, what is the deal? Like, what is your allegiance to Ronnie Yaya? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all really trying to let this man fight out his contract? Like, he should have been cut a while ago. But no, not shout out to him. I don't like to see nobody lose their job, but you'll see what is the Ronnie Yaya project? You know what I'm saying? I mean, I know he's a beat up guy at this point, where you're trying to prop guys up, and in this case, you're trying to get Victor Henry back in the winning column. But still, though, come on, I got Victor Henry to go out there and get the win. We got Austin Hubbard sipping in there with Mikael Figlak. I'm going along with Figlak to get the win there. You know, I don't know. I'm going along with him to get the win. I've just never been a Austin Hubbard guy, so I'm going along with Figlak. And the last fight I'm going to talk about is, and just because he's from Louisville, Kentucky, homegrown, hometown talent. We talking about Dontel Mays stepping in there with, KO Machado. Man, I'm going along with Dontel Mays. I watched Machado fight on the Contender Series, and I definitely do think he's got skill. He definitely has power, but Dontel Mays is usually a guy that once he gets one or two losses, you know, if he gets two losses in a row or he takes a loss, generally he can bounce back with a win. As well as I think a lot of the times with him, I think he's a fairly good athlete, especially for heavyweight. And I think he's a pretty comparable fighter. Shout out to him, Louisville, Kentucky own. You know what I'm saying? I think a lot of his issues are fighter IQ. I think a lot of the times with some of these heavyweights, he tries to go in with, you know, with this type of a style and that upper trunk movement. And I mean, that's a style, man. You got to be extremely light on your toes and you got to be committed to that style for the pretty much the entire fight if you're going to succeed, because it's all reliant upon reflexes and you being able to get out of the way. And I think at times Dontel Mays tries to implement that style, but then we get into fighter IQ, and then out of nowhere he'll go for a takedown or he'll go for a clinch when he may have been winning on the feet, or when he starts to get chinned from that particular upper trunk movement. Maybe his reflexes aren't quick enough for the opponent he's facing. I believe that he sticks with that game plan for too long before he tries to implement another tactic. And in his other fights, I've seen him when that stand-up style is working pretty well and he is able to be a little bit faster than his opponent, then he tries to take it to the ground or implement some grappling. So for me, that's just a fighter IQ issue. And a lot of the time, if you're checking all the other boxes, maybe the fight will go your way to where your fighter IQ or lack thereof won't be your undoing. So I'm going along with Dontel Mays to go out there and get the win. I think he's gonna. I think also he's had a better strength of schedule, as I was speaking about another fighter earlier. Tougher opponents, tougher guys he's lost to. You know, this guy's new to the UFC. Compared to Mays, so I'm going along with Mays to go out there and get the win. Outside of that, I mean, there's a few other fights, but these are just a few of the fights that I'd definitely be tuning in to check out. You know, once again, kind of definitely a lackluster Apex card, but kind of is what it is. And I mean, and what are you going to do when you're coming off of UFC 300? So, nevertheless, man, that's the card. It goes down this Saturday night, UFC Vegas 91 in the Las Vegas UFC Apex. So we'll see how it goes down, man. I got Nicolau in the main event. We'll see how it all plays out. I'll be right back with you guys. I'm going to do another news, little current events video. We'll see what's going down. Been a fairly quiet week overall in MMA. I mean, pretty much boxing has dominated the airways with your boy Ryan Garcia going out there. And shout out to Ryan Garcia. This homie truly succeeded in the game plan that a lot of the time Jake and Logan Paul have tried to implement. He goes out there, he trolls his opponent to another level, trolls the fans to another level, and literally has you believing that this dude is so off. There's no way this dude's getting ready to go in there and win the fight. And he goes out there and puts on a pretty good boxing showing for himself. Pretty good fight, pretty good showing for himself. Dropped the homie 3 times. Could have been 4, but the referee was trying to bend things in his favor. Nevertheless, man, Ryan Garcia goes out there and gets the win. And that fight with Devin Haney has been dominating airways. You haven't seen a ton coming out of MMA in the last few days. So we'll see what we can drum up. We'll see what's going on. Nevertheless, I appreciate you guys for joining me for another episode of Matter of Fact MMA. And I'll check you next time. Peace.